Welcome to today's video, which is going to feature the Silca Premio tire lever. And I'm going to tell you why you should never buy this. And before anyone thinks that I hate Silca, that's not the case. I pay my own money for everything I've reviewed so far on this YouTube channel. So I want things to be awesome, trust me. So right off the bat, I would put Silca in sort of the, let's call it the premium brand category, where they take existing products and, in their words, give them some sort of marginal gain or tweak and then charge you a fair bit of money for them. Examples of successful products they have include their bar tape, which I previously reviewed and I really like. If you have carbon fiber handlebars and you're wrapping them from the bottom up and around, I think it's got the best finishing kit in the industry. Then there is their new Ultimito, or whatever they call it, tubes, which I believe are also a premium product with not so great marketing, if you watch my previous video. And be careful if you're using mini boom boxes with these tubes, because I believe you could melt them at the tube valve stem interface. Fair enough. Then you get into some questionable stuff. Like I've got a bottle of their version 1 ultimate tubeless sealant. Apparently this stuff dries quicker than anything else in the industry and may eat away your rim strips with the carbon bits that are in this. And then that comes to our little tire levers right here. In this previous video, I tested a ton of tire levers. Link in the description, as with any video that I discuss in this video. And the only one that didn't pass was the SilcaTire lever. The story of how I ended up with the Silca lever starts with me looking for one more lever to complement or be different, let's say, than all the other levers in the reference tire lever test I just did. I'd probably watch 50 to 60 videos on tire levers, especially for gidget or gadget levers like the tire glider that I'd done. And of course, the algorithm then feeds me this video from Silca. For 10 minutes straight, Josh pours it on, the pure marketing poetry of his superior product. Of course, I was completely enticed and decided I had to have it for my tire lever test. After checking the local bike shop, they didn't have any. So I want to save some money on postage, so I went straight to Amazon. Of course, I'll point out it is sold still by Silca, right there. So I'm buying it directly from the manufacturer. And of course, there's all of this great stuff in here. In the marketing on the main page of their ad, there's some themes, and they say this throughout most of their stuff. It's carbon safe. They also say that it's for emergency kits. And they also tell you, I love this claim, that using this tire lever will cut the time it takes you to change that flat in half. The packaging for the lever that I received from Silca's Amazon store is very simple front with the lever, and on the back it shows you the lever, and it states that it's got an alloy lever, non-marring rim shield, and you can hook your spokes with this little wing here. That's all they've got on the packaging. And here's the original footage from the tire lever video. The loser in this test, and the only tire lever I would not recommend, is the Premio by Silca. Regrettably, it was the only tire lever that managed to fail during the test. You can see that the
alloy insert here is bent. No other tire lever in the test had this happen to them, and this was under the hardest scenario. I didn't even notice it until I was putting them back together. The other thing is, it scratches rims.
After bending a tire lever and scratching the crap out of my test rim, the first question I had to ask myself is, what did I miss? Well, I went straight to the Silca webpage and found this gem. It says, do not use for installation. Silca says that the tire lever should only be used to remove the tire. I love the wording afterwards. This is not intended use case for the tool and could result in damage. So if we go back to the web page where I bought this off Amazon, it's still Silca, and there's none of that in here in the main description. But of course, if you click here for more details, buried in the menus is, under the product description, I believe, this gem. But remember, it's still carbon safe. Of course, what I did next was go on to YouTube and do a search. And I found a Silca video from, I believe, around 2019, maybe a year or two after the product launch. And about 5 seconds in to the original product video, this young gentleman states that the Silca levers are only to be used to remove a tire. Remember, this is about 2018 or 19, I believe. What amazes me is how Silca has forgotten their own videos. In the video 7 years ago, the first thing they lead off with is this is a one-way tire lever. And I gotta figure out how to point my fingers here. It'll go like this, yeah. And in this video that I watched that enticed me into the product, Josh completely forgets to mention that this is likely the industry's only one-way premium tire lever.
I am not aware, and if you look at all these levers here, none of them say that they're a one-way lever. The only one that's a one-way lever is the Silca.
I've talked to quite a few bike mechanics about this Silca lever situation and said to them it's ridiculous to expect someone to install a tire with only their hands, which is Silca's essentially telling you what to do. And a few of the mechanics actually shocked me and said, yeah, that's the only way to do things. So I started thinking about why they'd take that position.
I can remember back in the early 90s when I started doing road racing along with mountain bike racing, I met some wise road riders, and they always told me, never put a tube in with a lever if you can avoid it. But back in, let's say, the very early 90s, things were different than nowadays.
Pre-bike science, everyone thought that the narrower your tire and the higher pressure you put in it, the less rolling resistance you have, and you were going to go a heck of a lot faster.
Back, let's say, when most senior bike mechanics were just starting off, it was way more critical to use your hands to put the bead over because you're dealing with rims that were likely somewhere in the 16 millimeters wide with tires that range from 20 to 23 millimeters. And 23 was actually considered wide. You were considered a rebel if you're on a 25. Nowadays, 25 is considered narrow and 30 to 32 is more the norm. And rims are anywhere from 21 to 25 mil wide for road as an example. So there's way less chance of pinching a tire with these new modern setups, particularly considering now we use TPU as opposed to butyl, and The absolute worst dog park dumpster fire was latex tubes. You could look at them and you could pinch them when trying to install them. This is where most people struggle when reinstalling a tire, especially on these tubeless tires, is when you get to this last bit. The risk is either, if it's non-tubeless, that when you pry, you're going to bust the tube, or that you're going to potentially damage the rim strip or rim tape inside. When we're using the Silca levers, there's another issue, which is, if you look right here, I've scratched that rim. Now, if it's carbon, it's going to be just as bad or worse. One thing I'm not going to claim to you is that I'm perfect. In the previous tire lever video I did, I used this Tubeless tube for approximately, let's say, 30 on and offs. On the last one I did, on the hardest tire, I actually managed to puncture the Tubeless when I was wetting the bed using one of the levers. So there's a counter argument to everything I'm saying here. I've watched a lot of Silca videos, and I will say that I have never seen Silca, although it's gravel, put on a tire using a lever in any of their demonstration videos, particularly this one and this one.
I'm sure many of you have just shown up for the video takedown. I'm just going to try to keep this short and hit only the high points.
After the opening foreplay, Josh gets right down to business and tells us how expensive this lever is. I think I can agree with him on this.
And unique, and why it's pretty much won every independent tire lever test out there. I think it's always kind of the same: 5 stars for performance, 3 stars for price, because it's.
I spent a couple of hours looking on the interweb at tire lever tests, and I really didn't see any that Silca had outright won. In Cyclingnews 2025, Muck-Off won this, and I tested them. They're pretty good levers. I'm not sure if they're as good as what Cyclingnews says they are. In 2023, Bike Radar declared this lever as their outright winner, the Decathlon in and out lever, let's call it. In 2022, Cycling Weekly gave the win to Pedro's, which is pretty similar to the previous winner I mentioned in 2025, the Muck-Off lever. Road CC in 2021 gave the win to the Swab B, there I'll say it right, levers, which I've got here. The only mention I find of Silca is in that same Road CC test where money's no object. The Silca lever took the win. Josh can't claim that Silca won this, though, because in most mathematical systems I'm aware of, 5 stars clearly beats 4 stars in any test. The reason why Silca didn't get 5 stars is obviously the price, and there we go, shouldn't be used for fitting tires. I'm going to debate the strong 2 and maybe make that in X. Further on in the video, Josh discusses the special properties of the Silca lever being designed to conform to the rim's curvature. I'll make the point, though, that the weak plastic levers would likely do that naturally, as they'll flex when you put force on them. Josh also notes in the video that lots of carbon rims have been cracked if you search the internet by tire levers. The examples you give, I'm not sure if this is manufacturer's flaws and or impacts. Who knows?
You get to the price, it's essentially like buying multiple tire levers in one. Each of these essentially is a forged tire lever with an injection molded TPE tire lever jacketing it, multiple sets of tooling, the whole thing. So like 4 tire levers per tire lever.
I do math a little differently. I think it's half of a tire lever. At $7.50, we're spared of any more propaganda as Josh switches to promoting the tire lever with a CO2 cartridge head on the end of it. Now, I've talked to the free ride community and they want a roach clip on the end of this tire lever, but I don't think he's going to listen to them.
The most shocking part of this video is that nowhere in the entire video does he mention the fatal flaw of this tire lever, that being it's a one-way lever.
If you already own a set of Silca levers, the way I see it is you have 3 options. Option 1, you can carry these levers, and if you cannot get the tire reinstalled with just your hands, you're going to risk scratching your expensive rims. Number 2 is you can carry these levers and bring another set of levers with you, which makes these essentially redundant. And number 3 is you can be 100% sure that you can get the tire back on with your hands. If you're 100% dedicated to the idea of using these tire levers and using your hands, and you want to make sure you can get those tires on in any situation, don't worry, it's real easy. Either what you do is I'd recommend volunteering for 3 hours a day, 3 times a week at a bike shop, putting on and off with your hands tires. Otherwise, you can do a home routine, and it's relatively cheap. Just buy yourself about $1,500 worth of hand strength gear. You can include pinch hubs to lift things, these little climbing things to get your fingers strong, and then there's your thumbs. So what you can do is buy these pinchy things here to develop your thumb for getting that bead on. Little devices like this, where you kind of crush it like that. And then of course, hand grippers. I'd say buy at least $1,000 worth of hand grippers so you can progress yourself up. Captain's a Crush is the one I recommend, and you probably want to get to about a 2.0 if you're dealing with tubeless tires on tight rims. I wasn't planning on contacting Silca customer service and or asking for a warranty. But based on the comments from my previous tire lever video about someone having an unfavorable experience with Silca customer service, I decided what the heck. So I approached them. I mentioned the deficiencies in the most recent video and the packaging not pointing out that this is a one-way lever and that it could result in rims being scratched. Then I stated that I bent my lever and I just wanted to warn them about their inconsistencies, but I wasn't looking for a replacement. They replied back essentially going that no real lever should be used to reinstall a tire, and immediately told me that since I had bent the product, they are certainly going to send me a new one, regardless of whether I wanted one or not, and I provided them with my address. And it ended there. And I don't really have anything to say about my interaction with them that I felt bad or was inappropriate. Generally, it was very favorable, I think, because they did their job. They warranted their product and they replaced it. What more could you want?
If I was going to redesign this lever, the first thing I would do is get rid of the aluminum and put steel in to make it stronger. The next thing I would do is I would move the flange down slightly for spoke hooking, and then I would end up putting some sort of hard plastic lever on this end to allow you to reinstall the tire safely without scratching your carbon. Then I think you could warrant the cost of this tire lever.
Wrapping up, Silca, I suggest that you redesign this product. At minimum, you should add a warning to the package of the product and revise the last video you put out on this product to explain to people clearly that it's a one-way product. And I'll mention, as far as I'm aware, it's the industry's only one-way tire lever. So with that, like, subscribe. If you got any questions or comments, you disagree with me, or I've made a mistake, please light me up down below. And until next time, ride hard.